My name is Garrett Morse. I live in Barrington. And I've been listening to a lot of the discussion on this. And it's talked at a level of state level. And what seems to be left out of this plan is what happens when you start adopting federal law on top of this. Now, I'd like to take a quick survey of the room. How many of you know what a census block is? Could I see a show of hands? Okay, out of about 100 people here, I'd say maybe 6, 7 people raised their hand. I suggest that everyone in this room get very familiar with what a census block is. Census block is about the size of, let's say, downtown Rickford.
That's not true.
Sorry?
Please,
that's not true.
Please don't interrupt the speakers, I'm sorry.
I drew census blocks.
Please, this is not an interactive discussion. Let the speaker have his time. Please go ahead.
Go right ahead.
Okay.
My apologies.
All right, I'm basing it what I looked up on the U.S. Census Bureau, so if you...
A tract.
I'm sorry?
Census tract.
Please, I think I've already asked.
I'm referring to census blocks, and I counted the number in various communities.
Please just direct your comments to...
Okay. The issue is the question of whether or not we are planning to a community or down to the census block is very relevant to this discussion. And the question of whether or not you are compliant as a community down to the census block is relevant. Now, I referred to a lawsuit that was filed in 2006, which I've read page to page and which refers very clearly to census blocks. It was a federal case against the County of Westchester. And in that settlement agreement, the agreement was that because there had not been certain statistics met that were compliant to HUD's affirmatively furthering fair housing, that the residents of Westchester County were required to pay a settlement of $51 million payable by the local taxpayers. Now, that was clear, and it is clearly laid out that the problem was that they hadn't adopted proper HUD statistics down to the census block. And so the settlement agreement was only the start of this. HUD came in later and started expanding their jurisdictional authority once that settlement had taken place. And so the question of this plan needs to be weighed not in terms of what the state may be looking, but this plan is being driven by what is being driven by HUD requirements. Because if you read this plan, what you're reading is effectively HUD's AFFH requirements, affirmatively furthering fair housing. And if you are not compliant, HUD has already made clear that they are moving forward with litigation in many other communities against those that don't meet the statistical norms. So if you've purchased a home in an upscale area, one of the HUD requirements at this point in time is that you look at the diversity statistics within that census block, and that's documented in this settlement. And if you haven't complied, there must be a plan on file in the town hall that shows how you're going to integrate those. And the hammer that they use on this is that if you take HUD money, whether it's community development block grants, home funds, whatever, once you sign that check, you are now under HUD's thumb. You're under federal law, not state law. And what this plan has omitted entirely is what the federal ramifications are from taking the HUD money to support this particular initiative. So I simply point out that this plan is deficient in the federal requirements. You're looking at it from a state level. And I'd like to provide for the record a letter that I've been communicating with the Deputy Chief Legal Counsel, Mr. Peter Dennehy of your organization, and which basically confirms what I've been saying here.
Thank you.